In honor of Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, I thought it would be a great time to share my story about what it was like growing up Korean American. So I decided it'd be fun to share a few stories from my elementary school, middle school, high school, and college, which is where I'm at right now. I'm going to be dividing this video up into those kind of sections, and I'll also have all the timestamps down below. First and foremost, hello, my name is Kristin, HOJOO, Shim. My middle name is HOJOO, HOJOO, and that's also my Korean name. So let's go back into time to my elementary school period when I was a little baby. So Korean was actually my first language. I was always in ESL classes. I did remember feeling a bit culture shocked, but my two older sisters and I have always spoke Korean, and it was our first language, especially because all of our relatives live in Korea. And so my mom decided to make sure that we speak Korean at home in order for us to maintain our culture, our language, and also be able to speak to our relatives. I grew up in Minnesota, and I was always the only Asian in my friend groups. All my friends tended to be white, blonde, blue-eyed, or brunettes, and I always dreamt of being just like them. I didn't like the fact that I had smaller eyes than them, that I spoke even another language at home. So I always wanted to come across as whitewashed, and I didn't want my Korean heritage to really show throughout whenever I was at school. But of course, when I would go back home, it was like Hannah Montana. I was way too embarrassed for my mom to pack my lunches. I didn't want my friends to think it smelled weird or it looked funny or just looked different. So I always made sure that any snack that I brought was bought from an American store, and I wanted to just really play that role that I'm American, I am American. This is going to sound really funny, but I hated taking off my shoes because they were the only ones that stuck out because they were like an Asian character on the front, or it was like a Pokemon. Everyone else had just plain white socks, and that's all I ever wanted. And I just can't believe that a little 6 to 7 year old Kristin already knew that she didn't belong or didn't feel like she fit in. And the fact that I felt so ashamed of having to take my shoes off is crazy, just because I didn't want someone to comment, where are those socks from? Like, I've never seen those before. But now I look back at it and I'm like, dude, those socks are so cool. I don't know why I thought that it was such a big deal. So back in Minnesota, our main source of transportation was school buses, and there were moments when after school I would be able to go to my friend's house, but in order for me to be able to go on her bus, I had to use the classroom's phone and have my teacher talk to my parent in order for me to get permission. And a lot of the times, whenever I would have to make a phone call, I would always call my dad, because context, since my mom was the one that made sure that we always spoke in Korean, she doesn't really speak as well in English because she's continuously just having Korean into her head. So I really owe it all to her, because I am very Korean American thanks to her, and I'm proud of that. But anyway, so I made sure that when I had to make these bus phone calls, my friends were all gone out at recess, or I would come into the classroom a bit earlier so that no one would hear me speaking Korean to my dad first. I just remember these like little dark, excruciating moments that just made me feel like I was ashamed of being Korean, and I wanted to hide it as much as I could. Because I was so ashamed of my own identity, I knew that there were these typical stereotypes, so before they even had the chance to, I would always make fun of myself first so that they didn't have anything to say. They'd be making jokes and I'm like, oh, like, yeah, I should be good at math, but I'm not that good at it. Dude, like, I'm laughing right now, but I can't see. Haha, I have such small eyes. I would say little things like that because I knew that this was something that they considered to be amusing, and on top of that, I was just like, don't say that to me yourself, or else that will like traumatize me. Regardless, it did kind of hurt me in the end. It was a pretty weird time because I was still really young and I didn't really know much about it, but now that I'm analyzing more, reflecting back, I was quite ashamed. Then we dive into my middle school childhood period. This is a time when I actually just moved to California, and this was a period when my Korean American identity really started to come in play. It wasn't just I'm American. I started integrating more of my Korean self throughout my middle school life. The main reason why is because I started seeing more people that looked like me. So with that, I began to have some Asian friends. Some were also Korean. I had a friend at that time who was actually white, but she loved Korean dramas and she loved Korean food too. So a few of my Korean friends and I, plus plus my white friend, we would all eat lunch together, and she would eat anything Korean that my friends would bring. And it was just crazy to think like, wow, I'm sharing a lunch table with so many people that are kind of like me, and then even this like white girl who really does like my culture. I was like, I could get used to this. I feel socially accepted, and that's a weird but comforting thing to know. But because middle school was always everyone's awkward phase, I still didn't really talk in Korean or say that I speak it to my friends. At some points, it felt weird that I had a friend group that was Korean, so I wanted to also kind of diversify myself and get to know people that weren't Asian. I was slowly starting to realize that I am Korean American, and then when I would start talking to my friends who aren't Asian, I kind of started hiding myself again. Dude, who are you, bro? Like, do you want to be Korean all the time? Do you want to be American all the time? Like, what's your deal? So middle school was definitely a weird phase to look back on, but it was definitely the start of something new, something different, and something that felt very, very relieving. We go into high school. High school is kind of the same situation, but at this time, I actually started having more friends who were really proud that they were Korean American. I started getting really close to a few of these girls, and they would speak Korean with each other. And I was kind of confused because I'm like, wait, whoa, like you guys do that? Like I speak Korean to my parents. You guys are speaking Korean to each other. In a way, my whitewashed previous self would be like, isn't this considered really fob? Like, is this accepted? But then I was really comfortable with these girls, and they really did make me feel like I was at home. One of them like grew up in Korea, but then she moved here when she was really young. So like she still has her Korean roots and can speak fluently, but developed this Korean American identity at the same time. So it was just really interesting to see how throughout time I started speaking Korean to them. I was starting to speak Konglish, Korean and English, and it was just so fun to know that, wow, these two languages are integrated, and that also kind of made me feel like my identities are slowly starting to unravel and also unite together, which was a really peaceful, healing time. I want to share one story in high school that actually really stuck with me for a bit. I want to say that this was my junior year, and it made me feel so targeted and made me feel so small. So this was prom week. I was really involved with our student body. I was in ASB. We just got done with our rally. I was super stoked and I was really hyped, but I was also really tired because our rally setup the night before lasted until like 2-3 a.m. and we barely got enough sleep because we had to go to school the next day really early. I ended up leaving school a bit earlier. I was not in the right headspace because I was like sleep deprived, of course, and I wasn't really thinking straight. The schedule of that day was go get my brows threaded and then go to our lacrosse game. But as I was going back from the parking lot, there was another car that was coming. So I'm this car here and I bumped them. So I hit the side of their car. This Middle Eastern man came out and he was screaming at me. And he was like, of course it's an effing Asian. Kept on saying so many mean comments. I never really felt this racially targeted in my life. And it was just so overwhelming that I just didn't know how to act. Of course I was bawling. I felt so bad. I was like, what did I think? How did I crash this car? I was just not in it. I was a mess. But luckily in that moment, one of our security guards of our school, he was just like roaming around in the golf cart. His name is Joe. And I'm so appreciative of Joe because at that moment, he stopped the guy who was yelling at me. Hey, like you can't say those things. We know when we understand the situation, basically you gotta cut it out. And while he was calming him down, he told me, hey, you should call your dad, call your mom, let them know that you're in this accident. So I was just so thankful for him, but I was really sad just to know that as an Asian who's supposedly not considered to be a good driver was blatantly exposed. It was just a really sucky day. But after I cried up a storm, called my dad, had everything figured out, I ended up following through my day. I did go get my eyebrows threaded. I did go to the lacrosse game, but it was just a wild day. The next day was prom, so I just make the most of everything. Yeah, it was a really sucky moment, but we got through it. So here we are now in the college phase. I'm realizing now that while I'm in college, I have a lot of Korean friends. It was so normal for me back in elementary school to only hang out with my non-Asian friends at that time. I'm so comfortable now to be in this Korean bubble with people and speak in Konglish or just speak in Korean. Then when I step out of this community, I'm like, wait, how do I act now? I can't speak Korean, I can't speak Konglish. But I do think that this is now a time in my life where I am realizing the importance of having friends that have the same ethnicity as you. It's so fun to know that we grew up in the same way. It kind of creates this bond that you never thought existed. While I've grown in California, this was when I realized that, oh, watching K-dramas is fun to talk about and it's okay to watch. Listening to K-pop or Korean music is cool and you can talk about this with your friends. Once we moved to California, we started visiting Korea a lot more. Especially my grandparents, they're getting older and we want to make sure that we can spend as much time with them now. And I'm so thankful for that. And I'm so thankful that all these Korea trips that I've been able to document these past few years, they've also made me notice how much I consider Korea my home. I know that I'm not fluent and there's a lot of things that I can lack when being considered 100% Korean, but there's something about Korea that makes me feel so excited and loved, and I appreciate that country. Whenever the teacher took attendance, sometimes they would show the whole roster on a projector on the screen for everyone to see, and I was always so embarrassed of my middle name because everyone has like such pretty English first and English middle names, and I didn't want to be considered a foreigner. HOJOO means Australia. I kind of like got made fun of it with my sisters growing up. Whenever I would tell my friends here and there, they would be like, oh my god, your name's Australia. But I'm realizing how much prouder I am to be Korean now and how much I should love my name. There's something so comforting being able to be called HOJOO in my household and being called HOJOO from my friends and close loved ones that I decided that I might as well just make HOJOO be my YouTube. Make HOJOO be something that I should continue to look at and feel so comfortable and unashamed of. Now I'm wanting that little girl who is ashamed of herself to come out and just be loud and proud. And because it is Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, that was another thing that really did motivate me to change my channel to embrace my heritage. I hope that you guys like HOJOO and that you guys do stick around. I hope this was also really comforting for those of you out there who also felt ashamed of your heritage at one point. Even though you may not be Asian Pacific American, whatever race you may be, I hope you know that you are beautiful and you are so loved in this world. You should never be ashamed of who you are because you may be a different color. If anything, you should feel so proud of yourself for being different in this world because we need more diversity. We need more difference. If it was all similar and perfect, dude, like what's the point of living right now? We always need a new challenge. We always need our minds to be more open. These were just a few of my stories and I hope that you guys enjoyed it. So thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Happy Asian Pacific American Heritage Month to my Asian Pacific Americans out there. I wish you all a great day. I hope you guys know that you are so loved, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!